pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot? She didn't want that.
One of the strongest moments from the presidential debate was when Kamala Harris made Donald Trump answer to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. She pointed out in vivid detail that women are being forced to suffer at the hands of the state. Ever since the Dobbs decision, we have seen story after story after story of women being denied care due to these draconian abortion laws. But it doesn't matter how many women are affected or how many women are forced to suffer, that we will still have people out there like John McEntee trying to convince people that these things don't happen. He would prefer to live in a fantasy world than to have to contend with the true suffering that is actually going on. So let's go ahead and take a look at what he said, and then we'll take a look at a great response from a TikTok user.
Can someone track down the women Kamala Harris says are bleeding out in parking lots because Roe v. Wade was overturned? Don't hold your breath.
So this is kind of John McEntee's shtick. He likes to get on TikTok and post condescending videos, ask stupid questions. But this isn't just some nobody. This is somebody who worked in the Trump administration. This is somebody who will likely work in a second Trump administration. And he's an advisor to Project 2025. So it's very plausible that people like this could have influence over what our reproductive landscape looks like if Trump were to be reelected. And that is terrifying. But like I said, lucky for us, we had Carmen Broesder respond to John McEntee and point out that this stuff actually does happen, that women are suffering and women are bleeding out in their cars because they can't get the care that they need. Let's go ahead and take a look at her story.
Present. I'm right here. I had a 19-day miscarriage in Idaho because of the abortion regulations. I blacked out in my hallway due to blood loss. I stopped eating, so my daughter stopped eating. So I had to eat with tears running down my face because it was actually painful to eat because I was in so much pain. Everything hurt. I developed a heart condition called AFib. It means my heart doesn't work right anymore. And it up. So if I get too excited, too hot, too much in pain, too traumatized, my heart up. And so I have to regulate for my heart to keep active. Otherwise, I could have a heart attack and die. I have to deal with these side effects for the rest of my life because of abortion laws. But yeah, women are bleeding out in parking lots.
That is absolutely devastating. This woman will have to suffer for the rest of her life because legislators in Idaho decided that they wanted to ban abortion. This is a mom who already has children. This was a wanted pregnancy that turned into tragedy, and now she has to suffer the consequences of Idaho for the rest of her life. What are we doing? And then there's people like Jaci Statton. She had a partial molar pregnancy, I think is what it's called. She was told to go wait in her car while she bled out. Just another story that needs to be highlighted. Let's go ahead and take a look.
At OU, doctors confirmed everything. There was no chance of a healthy baby, and the pregnancy was life-threatening. All of the doctors agreed I needed a life-saving abortion and should receive care under Oklahoma's ban. But the ultrasound tech refused to sign off on the exception. He insisted that he could hear a heartbeat and told the doctors that they could not touch me due to the ban. I remember hearing the doctors pleading with him. The next transfer was to OU Children's Hospital. But by then I was so dehydrated, weak, and out of it. My husband, Dustin, was my voice and a fierce advocate for me. The team there told me that they could not help me. They suggested taking me home and keeping an eye on me, and we live so far from there. He asked, what am I supposed to do if she starts bleeding again? And with sympathy, they did tell him that they couldn't touch me until I was crashing and that we should wait in the parking lot until I was about to die.
Again, tragic. Because this woman lived more than an hour away from the hospital and she wouldn't be able to return quickly, medical professionals are asking her to wait it out in the parking lot until she bleeds out just enough that they'll be able to render any care. Is this the type of world we want to live in? This is absolutely insane stuff. We should not be putting women through this. This is not how we should be treating pregnant people. And it goes beyond women just, bleeding out in the parking lot. Luckily, these women were able to receive the care once their life was threatened enough. But there are other consequences to these draconian laws. We have people like Kyleigh Thurman, who was sent home with an ectopic pregnancy. How insane is that? Let's go ahead and take a look at her story.
Yeah, I was sent home with an ectopic pregnancy, clearly visible in my ultrasounds. I was sent home to let it go off inside of me and internally hemorrhage and potentially die, which is, it ruptured and I internally hemorrhaged. If I had been given information sooner, then I could have made a decision that could have saved my right tube and, my fertility. Having my symptoms be dismissed, my pain be dismissed, it's unacceptable.
So this woman went home with an ectopic pregnancy, and then it ruptured. And because of those complications, they had to remove her right fallopian tube. This means that her fertility will never be the same again. If she wants to conceive, it could be impossible. At the very least, it's going to make things much more challenging. All because these laws do not allow for care to be administered when it should have been administered. Because these doctors are too scared of being locked up in prison or fined tens of thousands of dollars. And then we have people like Anya Cook, who miscarried due to something called PPROM. I think it's when the membrane ruptures. She nearly bled out in a hair salon. This is crazy stuff. Let's go ahead and take a look at her story. It is quite graphic, but I think it is very important that we tell it.
I went back home and I researched PPROM. I was like, oh my, I'm going to die. I might get sepsis. I don't know how fast this is going to happen. So when I'm in the salon and then something just told me, go in the bathroom. And I went in the bathroom and I sat down and I just felt something just say, push. And I heard her hit the water. And at that point, I had to call my husband because he was outside, and I called him and I said, babe, I need you to come inside. And he came in and he said to me, he's like, okay, what's wrong? And I said, I think she's here, but I can't look. And he said, I won't let you look. I won't let you look. And he looked and he said, okay, I see her, but you have blood.
You're
And there's
hemorrhaging
blood.
to death.
I started hemorrhaging, and I didn't realize it because there's so much adrenaline going through me, and I didn't know what else to do. And he just got on the phone and he called 911, and they rushed in and they grabbed me. They literally had to just grab so much cloth to hold up my blood. And they said, if you can just tense your body up to hold the blood, because if you release your body, you will continue to lose blood. And I said, well, can you take me to Coral Springs? They said, you're not going to make it to Coral Springs. I said, okay. Okay. And I blacked out at that point.
Shanae, you
By the time she received the care that she needed, Anya Cook lost nearly half of the blood in her body. Her uterus was damaged, meaning she doesn't know if she's going to be able to have any more children. All because of these crazy laws that provide no clarity as to when a miscarriage deserves treatment, how life-threatening does the situation need to be before they will administer care. These people, these legislators, these Republican states, they're not putting in the time or the effort to clarify these laws, to make things clear and concise so things like this don't happen. This is why it starts to feel like they're only trying to control women's bodies, because they aren't doing the work necessary to make sure that these devastating stories don't happen. And then I'm sure most of you have heard about Amanda Zurawski. She was forced into septic shock during her pregnancy. She doesn't know if she'll be able to have any more children. Let's go ahead and take a look at her story, and then we'll discuss.
I was pregnant last summer, and I was just shy of 18 weeks, and I developed a condition called incompetent cervix, which basically meant I was dilating prematurely, and we found out very quickly that we were with complete certainty going to lose the baby. Now, at that point, my doctor should have been able to provide an abortion or induce labor, but she couldn't, because in Texas, that inducing labor when the baby's heart is still beating would be considered an illegal abortion. And so I had to wait until her heart stopped beating or until I got sick enough that my life was on the line, and then they could induce labor. For me, what happened was it took about 3 days, and I did get so sick that I went into septic shock. And at that point, my doctors were finally able to induce labor, but I nearly died in the process. I spent 3 days in the ICU and another 3 days in another unit in the hospital.
If she wants to have children in the future, I think she goes on to say that she'll have to use a surrogate, that she'll have to use something like IVF or something equivalent to that, and use a surrogate because there was so much scarring that she's not going to be able to carry a child on her own again? Is this the type of world that we want to live in? These women are being forced to the brink of death, to infertility, all because we have these draconian abortion laws that are not clear, where women are unable to get the care they need when they need it. This should not be happening in America. I think all of these women we looked at today wanted to be pregnant. They wanted to welcome a child into their life. So John McEntee can spare me about this stuff never happening. This stuff happens. It may be rare, but there is story after story after story because these laws have not been clarified. There's been no lines drawn in the sand as to when somebody can receive care or when they can't. All in an effort to be pro-life. This does not look like pro-life to me. We should definitely be doing better here in the United States. We need to make sure that we're out there doing the work. And we need to remind people that Donald Trump is heavily responsible for putting those 3 Supreme Court justices in place that ended up overturning Roe v. Wade. And if he was able to get a second term, that could go even further. We saw in the debate that he wouldn't even commit to vetoing an abortion ban. Donald Trump is going to do anything he can to get elected, and he is going to make promises to the people who get him elected without committing to the rest of the American people that he won't go any further with this reproductive health care stuff. So we cannot trust a word he says on this issue, and we need to make sure people know that that is the case, and that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are the only people on the ticket that are going to be looking out for your reproductive rights. But I think that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you did get anything out of the video, please remember to smash that like button. Please remember to subscribe. I'm a budding new content creator. I would definitely love your support. If you want to learn why I think the Supreme Court is ruining America, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. One of the main topics in that video is how these draconian abortion laws are turning this world upside down, so to speak. So go ahead and watch that video. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.